All right, we are live. All right, shalom, shalom, family. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the highly advanced civilization of the Asiatic BlackMan. If you're new to my channel, welcome, family. This is a space where we go into everything esoteric, everything ancestral, because if you know yourself, then you can tap into the God energy within. You can expand. You can excel in your life. So that's pretty much what I'm about. You know, I offer spiritual services with my partner. So if you're up to it, I advise that you head over to my my website, sunchildapothecary.com. I will leave the link to that in the description box after this live. What's more is I've been focusing a lot lately on the early presence of Africans in America before the advent of Christopher Columbus coming to America. You know, it's the history of America is something that fascinates me because I feel like it has a really deep history. I'm talking about going back to Atlantis times. Okay, matter of fact, Atlantis probably was more accessible to those in America than those in Europe or those in Africa, in my opinion. I feel like it has more to do with the peoples of America because I feel like civilization probably developed first either in Asia, which we're going to be talking about today, Southeast Asia, making its way to America and then to the rest of the world, or it could have possibly, just possibly, developed in America. Okay, so I'm just here to share my thoughts on that. This is nothing that's hardcore science all the way. That's not how I like to do things. Not like how I like to rock. I like to kind of intuit my way through things. I like to use verified sources, but also use my own inkling of things. You understand? So that way, I'm thinking for myself, as well as I'm not misleading any of you guys. You know. So I will let you know what's fact and what's not fact as we get through this. But just give me 1 second. I'm waiting for the live to show up on my channel so I can make sure you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. You know? There we go. All right. Cool, cool. All right, so let's get into it. All right. Okay, so first slide. The Denisovin and Australian genetic markers in South America. So we're going to be talking a lot about the Denisovins today, okay? For those of you who are not familiar with what a Denisovin is part of the Homo family, okay? It's part of the hominid family, right? It's a Homo, it's a hominid that's really similar to Homo sapiens. Okay, I forgot the exact term. I don't know if they call it homogeneous, whatever the case may be. Sometimes I don't want to say the wrong things and mislead you guys. But anyway, they're very similar to us Homo sapiens. Okay, so we have Homo denisovin, Homo neanderthal, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo erectus, right? And they all were very similar to us. But unfortunately, they did not. I don't know. I would not say they didn't advance enough. I always think it's kind of strange to me how they just disappear around a certain time. That to me is very, very, very strange. And so yeah, I feel like no one truly knows what happened to them. Why Homo sapiens were the only ones who continue on. Okay, but anyway, researchers also found strong Australian Papua New Guinea genetic signals in the ancient genome from Panama. Sorry guys, I just woke up, so I gotta get into a flow with things. I'm stumbling on my words a little bit. Gotta wake up a little bit. That was a quote. Okay, I'm gonna go to the article in a second. Matter of fact, I'll go to the article now instead of just quoting here. So the article is from Florida Atlantic University. Okay, that's the receipt right there. Let's see, right here. This is where I was quoting from. Researchers also found strong Australian and Papua New Guinea genetic signals in the ancient genome from Panama. There's an entire Pacific Ocean between Australasia and the Americas, and we still don't know how these ancestral genomic signals appeared in Central and South America without leaving traces in North America, said Andre Luis Campelo dos Santos. He has his PhD, first author, an archaeologist, and postdoctoral fellow in Florida Atlantic University's Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. So basically what's going on is in the indigenous populations of South America, right, Central and South America, they've found genetic signals of Australasian populations, right? So the indigenous people of Australia and the indigenous people of Papua New Guinea. And along with that, they also found genetic signals of Homo denisovans, right? To further add to the existing complexity, researchers also detected greater Denisovan than Neanderthal ancestry in ancient Uruguay and Panama individuals, right? So what's baffling them about this? To some of you guys, you guys may be asking, like, what is so amazing about that? So for starters, they haven't found this trace of Australasian genomic signals in North America, okay? Especially where the Bering Strait is. They haven't found any of it. So that basically means that as far as we know, that this population, this Australasian population, this Denisovan population that made it to the Americas, it wasn't likely that they came there when the descendants of the Siberians migrated to the Americas, okay? And what's more is if you look at a world map, right, which I will show you guys, should have put this in a tab already. Let's just type world map images. All right, let me find a good one for you guys. Let's see, world map, Asia and America. So you guys can see the distance. It's a huge distance. All right, this is a decent one. So if you look at this map, you will see from Australia and Papua New Guinea, right, all the way to South America. That is a huge distance. It's closer if a population came directly from West Africa to South America, as you can see the distance between the lands, right? It's a very short distance rather than from Southeast Asia all the way to South America. That is a huge distance. So it is baffling the researchers right now to have found that there was a population which made it this distance without crossing the Bering Strait up here. You guys have to understand that's a very, very, very big deal, especially if they made it traveling through the seas. And I believe that they did, okay? Because I believe that this civilization, or these people that made it, they were not hunter-gatherers, but I believe that they were an advanced civilization, and I'm going to show my reasoning for this. So let's get back to the presentation. All right, so let's talk a bit about Homo denisovans. Denisovans are a group of extinct humans first identified from DNA sequences from the tip of finger bone discovered around 2008. Not much Denisovan remains have surfaced thus far, despite this genetic testing has proved successful. This has aided researchers in identifying ethnic groups with Denisovan admixture. Denisovans share a common ancestors with Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. So right here, this is the Homo genus, I believe it's called, family tree. Okay, so we see the branch of Neanderthals, we see the branch of Denisovans, and we see the branch of modern humans. Okay, or Homo sapiens, right? So you see that they are related to us. They look sort of like us, they act sort of like us, but they are not us. Okay, they could possibly have preceded us. Okay. All right. So let's get to the next slide. Interesting facts about the Denisovans. Most people think archaic humans lack the intelligence of Homo sapiens. They're sadly mistaken. That is not always the case. Denisovans are most certainly an exception. So far, archaeologists have found an intricate 40,000-year-old, okay, that's an estimate, so it could be older, bracelet in the Denisova cave. This green chlorite bracelet was found with a hole drilled into it. I'm going to show you guys it in a second, all right? What is intriguing is the hole found on the bracelet was performed in a manner which must have involved high-speed drilling, according to scholars. What is more, geneticists has also discovered an inherent trait of the Denisovan called the savant mind, which could easily make them masters of complex thought processes. That being said, it is not unlikely that they would have possessed knowledge of advanced mathematics and creative problem solving, right? So you see, again, their what has their culture, right? We figured that they were already making bracelets 40,000 years ago with high-speed drilling, okay? And a gene has been discovered with the Denisovans, which suggests that they have what they call the savant mind, okay? This would make them able to like have complex thought processes, okay? So they could do things like they can remember things really easily, okay? They'll see patterns in nature and they can memorize it very easily. While us Homo sapiens, a lot of us are not like that, okay? There are some a small population within the Homo sapien family, right, that has a savant mind, but it is kind of a rare thing. So let's hear a little bit about the savant mind. Oh wait, first let me show you guys the bracelet. So this is the bracelet right here that they found. Okay, some say it's like 65,000 to 70,000 years old. Maybe they changed the date because when this first came out, it was a kind of a long time ago. So maybe they changed the date on that. But I just know it was a really long time ago they found the bracelet. Okay, so that is crazy. And you see another kind of pictograph of it right here. You know, to show how it was meant to be a bracelet. You know, with the drilling and everything. So I find that pretty cool that they was doing that long ago with what would have been high-speed drilling. Where did they get that technology from? You got to ask yourself that. All right, so let us see.
So, if all of this is somehow linked with the Denisovans, why were they so advanced? How did they create that jewellery? Why did they create bone needles? Why were they creating musical instruments? What was going on? Well, here's the answer, in my opinion, and that's the fact that they have a different mindset to us, or had a different mindset, because when the genome was sequenced of the Siberian Denisovan, it was found that it contains one, possibly more genes that relate to autism. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they were autistic in the sense that we know today, but what it does suggest is that that their genes made them think in a different way. Now, what do we know about the so-called savant mind? You can remember incredible knowledge of mathematics and numbers, and precision becomes important to the point of, you know, OCD, literally, and that this allows you deep insights into areas which you wouldn't normally, perhaps, like ourselves, if you know, we haven't got those type of qualities, don't look into. And you think, if you're dealing with a human population that not only had this type of mindset, but also were using hallucinogens, right? I mean, let's just say, or certainly entering altered states of consciousness.
So yep, that's basically the whole spiel on that, the savant mind, it makes them masters of complex thought processes. Okay, so they're easily able to like their building skills would have been out of this world. You understand? When we're talking about things like the pyramids, and when we're talking about things like megalithic stone building in general, they're they're very capable of doing that with a thought process like that. Again, because they're able to, their precision with numbers is can be very amazing, and their creative mind, right? We would do things in such an A to B form, right? A to B, like just so simple, and they can come up with something so creative to figure out how to move so much weight and place it into place without even having to really break a sweat. Very possible. Okay, so that alone gives rise to believe that they were an advanced civilization, right? Advanced doesn't necessarily mean you have flying cars and stuff. Advanced just means that you were capable of complex thought processes. It also means that you uh, 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 um, um, went from hunter gathering, right, into again putting thought into everyday life. So you guys kind of have a community going on, right, with agriculture, and uh, you guys are using your brains to make life easier for yourselves in simpler words, okay, in simpler terms. So let's get back to that slide. Denisovan DNA in modern population. So let's talk a little bit about where Denisovan DNA has been traced amongst Homo sapien family, because different groups from the Homo genus family has been intermixing for thousands of years, okay? But more so far into antiquity than closer to us today. Denisovan DNA is most prevalent amongst Southeast Asians. The only other place where it is found in a considerable amount is Iceland. The population with the highest trace of Denisovan DNA is the Aita people of the Philippines. Okay, so this is a verified fact. Okay, this is not my opinion. This is a verified fact. All I have to do is search up Aita people, Denisovan DNA, and I'll show you guys. And these guys are the aboriginals of the Philippines. Okay, they're the first settlers of the Philippines. Right here, you'll see, you know, a lot of people already know about this. But matter of fact, let's not show you guys pictures of that. Researchers have known from several lines of evidence that the ancient hominins known as the Denisovans interbred with modern humans in the distant past. Now researchers have discovered that the Aida Mangbukan in the Philippines have the highest level of Denisovan ancestry in the world. Okay, so again, that goes to solidify that, and you guys see what they look like. Okay, they still look like their African family in Africa today. Okay, they have like very full afros, right, nappy hair like we do. And if you travel to the Philippines and you spend some time with them, you will see that they're not really that different from us. Okay, they have developed over a long period of time in Southeast Asia. They adapted a little bit of the Asian way of life, right, because of the environment and the climate and things like that, and also the different groups they may have been living amongst and having to adapt, right? But nonetheless, again, they are related to the black man, okay? So, we can move on here. And just to let you guys know, I still got this world map up. I do. All right, so when we come here, right, Southeast Asia, again, you will find a lot of Denisovan DNA, even in Australia, okay? But it just happens that the highest traces of Denisovan DNA is in the Philippines, okay? But it is found in considerable quantities amongst the people of Southeast Asia, okay? It's also found amongst people in like Tibet, Siberia, and whatnot, but in lesser percentages, okay? And the only other place that is found in a considerable percentage, like 3% amongst the modern population, is Iceland, okay, in Europe, which is an anomaly of how it reached there that far, okay? It goes to show you that, again, Even though we go back far into antiquity, okay, our ancestors, they knew how to travel. They were not as dumb as some scholars think that they were, okay? And it goes to show how much that we just don't know about these fascinating beings, about ancient hominins like Denisovans and Neanderthals and whatnot. You know? Traces of a highly advanced civilization in Southeast Asia. So let's give further reasoning as to why they would have been advanced, okay? Southeast Asia is home to some of the oldest pyramids. I'm talking about some of the oldest pyramids. Now, this is not fact, okay? This is speculation. I'll be honest here, okay? Because if you look at some of those, the so-called pyramids, they look exactly like pyramids, and I'll show you guys in a second. However, they're said to be mountains. So I'll let you guys decide that for yourself. Let's see. Gunung Sadu spelled something like that. Let me take caps off. Yeah, but you can see it for yourself. It's shaped like a lot like a pyramid. This you know, and it very well could be a mountain, as you can see. Like there's mountains in the back here, but I don't know. It looks kind of sus to me. I personally believe that it can easily be a pyramid. Okay, but I'm gonna let you guys decide for yourself. I thought I would throw that throw it in there. Okay, but let us talk about a site which is more likely to be a pyramid in but this is going to be in Indonesia. Okay, let's see, because we're talking about Gunung Padang. Gunung Padang is in Indonesia. There's a lot of debate speculating around Gunung Padang. More or less, LiDAR surveys of the pyramid detected 3 layers. The oldest layer of the gigantic pyramid dates back some 24,000 years. If peer-reviewed and backed by further evidence, Gunung Padang will mark the oldest megalithic site known to man. Okay, the only other megalithic site that may give it a run for its money is the Sphinx. But this is only according to one scholar, Robert Schoch. He believes that according to Randall Carlson, who said that he's personally spoke to Robert Schoch, okay, he believes that the Sphinx can date back some tens of thousands of years, according to Randall Carlson's word, but he's dated it to the end of the last ice age, okay, which is like some 13,000 years ago, okay. So it wouldn't even really compare in those terms to Gunung Padang. So let's take a look at Gunung Padang. Alright, so I'm going to give you guys an aerial view of Gunung Padang so you can see what it looks like from higher points of view. Let's see. Maybe I passed it up. Because when you look, like what you guys are seeing are pictures of it. Like this is a picture of it where the mouse is right here. But you can't really tell that looks like a pyramid. But this is an aerial view of it right here. Okay. And on its own, it looks very plain Jane, right? But there's been intentional building on it, right? Which archaeologists have found, and so they know that it's not necessarily a natural site because there's been building on it, and they found older layers with LiDAR surveys, so they can kind of shoot these like light beams into the ground, and they found that it actually has older layers which the inhabitants at the time were building, and the oldest layer dates back some 24,000 years. Okay, if it was a completely natural site, there shouldn't be no layers. There shouldn't be no layers of what of people kind of building and moving things around there, right? It should just be left alone. That wouldn't be. But over time, you know, as civilization falls and rises, and you go through the different phases, right? You will find that people want to remake things. They want to make it bigger and better. Okay, and we're left with this right here. And then you, if you look at a sketch of what it may have looked like um, some 24,000 years ago or so, it looks really amazing. Okay, you see the step style pyramid, okay, which we find often in Mesoamerica and other places around the world. Okay, but if it was first in Indonesia, right, and we have no older evidence that there were step style pyramids anywhere around the world, then we know that these people most likely traveled and brought culture to Mesoamerica and other places, right? So that's my theory right there. I mean, it has already been found that Australasian populations, their genomic signals, along with Denisovan genomic signals, have been found in South America. So it's very possible in indigenous populations, right? So let's continue on. Elongated skulls, right? So you might ask, why do we need to talk about elongated skulls? Here's the thing. Elongated skulls are a signal of an advanced civilization. Here's the reasoning, okay? Elongated skulls are clear signs of an advanced civilization. This practice was taught by the Elohim. If you watch my very first presentation on this channel, you know who the Elohim are, right? They were an advanced, again, they could have been part of the Homo Denisovan family, right? They were these advanced so-called gods, right? But they were just like us. They looked just like us and everything. The ancients always talked about them that way. Only thing is that they said that they came from the sky, right? So they may have came to such an advanced point in civilization that they took civilization other places and been back and forth with us. Okay, it's very possible. I'm not going to rule it out, but I'm not going to say it's a thing. All I know is that they were here and that they were no different than us. Then they may have not been Homo sapiens like we know. Okay, but they were, while we were developing, they were already advanced and they were considered our gods. Okay. As means to distinguish, the Elohim taught, if you read the book of Enoch, you will know that the Watchers, right, who are just the Elohim or the Anunnaki, they kind of, a group of them rebelled and started mixing amongst us, right? And this is where we get the giants from and everything. And they taught us things like how to metalwork. They taught us things like botany, right? Made us well versed in herbs, right? And astronomy, astrology. They taught us things like body, what's it called? Modification, right? So like again, elongated skulls and how to make our teeth look like sharp teeth and all these kinds of crazy things. Okay, they taught us those things according to the book of Enoch, right? So that already goes to show you that is a signal of an advanced civilization. Okay. But they taught it to us, and we started to use it as means to distinguish commoners from royal chiefs and pharaohs, right? Because normally we'll find that the elite class amongst a civilization, amongst a community in the ancient days, they oftentimes, we found it time and time again, that they would elongate their skulls. We find this very common in Mesoamerica. We find this very common in Asia, and we also find it common in Africa. Okay, and the reason why they did this is if they elongated their skulls was different from those around them, so you would know that they were special. Okay, and also they found evidence that those with elongated skulls, when they did testing on their bodies, right? When they did genetic testing and all these things, they found that they had a more diverse diet. Okay, so they were able to eat more a variety of foods than the common people would. The common people didn't get as much privileges. Okay. So far, the oldest trace of this practice has been found in East Asia. Not surprising, right? So this is why I have the theory. Let's get to the This is why I have the theory that civilization may have first developed in Asia, okay? Southeast Asia or East Asia in general, okay? And the first people, first settlers of Asia, understand, were Africans, okay? The Aboriginal people of Australia, Papua New Guinea, the Philippines, and they still look like, a lot of them still look like we do today, okay? But here's the article. 12,000 years ago, a boy had his skull squashed into a cone shape. It's the oldest evidence of such head shaping. Okay, so there's the receipt right there. You guys can search it up for yourselves. But first, I want to kind of backtrack a little bit. I didn't get to talk about the dating of Gunung Padang and show you guys. Okay, so the anthropologist that dated Gunung Padang back some 20,000 years is Danny Hillman. Okay, but of course, you know, because it does not, his dating did not align with modern scholars and modern academia as far as like what civilization being the oldest civilization. A lot of people, modern scholars, say it's, you know, Sumeria or whatever. Since his opinion did not agree with that, I believe. You know, with civilizations in the east or whatever the case may be, like Göbekli Tepe, Jericho, right? Since he's showing evidence that contradicts with that, of course, his peers, they didn't run with it, okay? And they signed a petition and said, it's, you know, he's performing pseudo archaeology and whatnot. You'll find that a lot when people don't agree with the status quo. Anyway, also Robert Schoch mentioned that Gunung Padang can well be that age, okay? This is in Graham Hancock's book. I think it's called The Magician of the Gods. The view of Professor Robert Schoch. Schoch is a renowned figure, indeed notorious for the case he's made based on strict geological evidence that the Great Sphinx of Giza bears the unmistakable erosion patterns of thousands of years of heavy rainfall. This means it has to be much older than 2500 BC, the orthodox date when Egypt received no more rain than it does today, and must originally have been carved around the end of the Ice Age, when the Nile Valley was subjected to a long period of intense precipitation. A tall, rangy, scholarly man with a full beard and a mop of unruly hair, Schoch was in his element at Gunung Padang, carefully interrogating the results of the geophysical scans with Danny, collecting samples and minutely examining the site. So he was along with Danny Hillman, okay? Afterwards, when he'd returned to the US and had time to analyze the data, he wrote, "The first important observation is that Gunung Padang goes back to before the end of the last ice age." So that was right off the bat, okay? As a man that has seen a lot of different ancient sites, okay? He was able to identify right off the bat that that Gunung Padang is a site that looks to be very ancient. Based on the evidence, I believe that human use of the site began by circa 14,700 BC. Possibly the earliest use of the site goes back to 22,000 BC or even earlier, okay? So that's two scholars with the same outlook already, okay? If it's backed by further evidence, again, you guys heard it from me first, Gunung Padang, Gunung Padang will be the oldest megalithic site. Okay, so that would change what we know about ancient civilizations, and we have to kind of rescope and relook at everything. All right, let's talk about Sunderland. All right, many people have never even heard of Sunderland. From approximately the last 2.6 million years to the end of the last ice age, 12,000 years ago, right? Indonesia, Borneo, and the Malay Peninsula, all the way to mainland Asia, right around Thailand, was merged together, forming a landmass which we call Sunderland, okay? And it sunk around like it was like fully submerged underwater around like 9,000 BC. Of course, you know, the Malay Peninsula in Indonesia, parts of it is still above water today, okay? But the mass of it kind of sunk. The mass of it kind of sunk again around like 9,000 BC. So I'm gonna show you guys kind of like a what's that called? What's that thing called? Like basically a timeline. Okay, I forgot what it's called when you do that thing where you show gradual process on the camera. It's not like regular recording. Forgot. But let me show you guys. We don't need to watch this whole thing, so I'm just going to skip, and you guys are going to see the bulk of what it looked like. So all of the gray that you guys are seeing here would have been above land, okay? So he's showing as the sea levels was lower, okay? Because the sea levels have risen during the end of the last ice age, because all of the polar caps was melting and everything at a rapid pace, right? So you see that outline? That would have been Sunderland right there, okay? It's a huge, huge, huge land mass, all right? So I feel like it would have gave more way for the indigenous people of Sunderland to travel, okay, and having to travel less of a distance to America. Though it's not, it doesn't make a great difference, right? But it allows more land, more fertile land for things like agricultural resources and things like that, so that it's possible that they could have made it to travel a long distance, okay? So let's continue on. Did the Asiatic BlackMan make it to the continent of America? We already know that Australasian and Denisovan genomic signals have been detected in indigenous populations of South America. The anomaly is, how did the black Asiatic man travel all the way to South America, if not by the Bering Strait? Is there any accounts of foreigners reaching the western shores of America from the Pacific? Let us find out from a Shosho chief. Okay, so this is now the book, the excerpt from the book that I'm going to show you guys. I've read it extensively. Okay, I've never read a book that is more detailed than this book right here. It was written in the 1800s, early 1800s, by a man named the book is called Travels and Adventures of Monsieur Violet. So I would assume that his name was Monsieur Violet, but the author, so-called author's name is Frederick Marryat. Okay, but here's the thing: before we get into the book, I want you guys to just take a look at this too, because I know when you guys search it up on your own on Google, you're going to see information that makes this book look really sketchy. Okay, because they're gonna say a lot of his works is fiction. It's like polluted with fiction and whatnot. It never happened. But boom, but boom. But here's why they deemed it that way. Okay, look, there's a reasoning for everything. When Captain Marryat's Travels and Adventures of Monsieur Violet in California, Sonora, and Western Texas was published in 1843, it was violently attacked in America. Okay, take key note of that. Though the book was dull and chaotic, this is that person's opinion, was extremely unflattering to the Yankees, okay, the European settlers in America, who were already kind of building their own civilization, and was especially abusive in treatment of the Texans, more Europeans. The primary fault singled out by the critic was neither aesthetic nor political. They charged and demonstrated in great detail that Marryat had plagiarized large sections of his work from Farnham, Lewis, and Clark, and almost every other writer on our Western prairies and wilderness. Okay, so I've never read these people's work, so I can't testify to that. Maybe I should. Maybe you guys should as well. But all I can say is whether it was plagiarized from another explorer, it does not make the accounts he was sharing of the events which happened, okay, any less true. All it just means is that he took it from someone else, so it could have still happened. But anyway, it was because he, in the book I read, he exposed Mormons, he exposed the early Texan government, he also exposed the early Mexican government, and spoke a lot about the corruption of these early organizations, okay? And he spoke about a lot of like news articles which came out in the times where he was on the west coast of America, right, of certain events that happened, and he told the truth about how it really happened versus what the news article said, and he explains in great detail how certain things happen, and it makes more sense to me than the news article, okay, which he also quotes and shows. So the only way you will know is if you read it for yourself, okay, then you can make up your own mind. But in my opinion, the works is too detailed to just be works of fiction. I could more so believe that it may have been plagiarized than it did completely being a false narrative, because the man gave direct coordinates in America. The man spoke about local population of animals in America. Certain things that went on with, again, the early Texan government, all these things, the Indian tribes, certain things that went on with Indian tribes, and the war that they had between each other, the Crows and the Comanches and the Shoshones, right? It's just very, 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 very detailed, okay? I can't even express the amount of detail that went into this book. So all I can do is advise that you guys read it, okay? It was published in the 1800s, okay? It's called Monsieur Violet. So I want to again show you guys how, and so I don't know if his name is Monsieur Violet or Frederick Marriott, but the person who wrote this, okay, who experienced this, matter of fact, I'll say, said that they became a chief amongst the Shoshone, okay? Their family settled amongst the Shoshone, him, his father, and the Prince of England at the time, okay? Because the prince's father, I think, had just had died, and like the prince was getting into a lot of things in England and was actually expelled from England for some time, and then made their way with this person, their father, and some other people made it to the west coast of America. Were greeted by the Shoshone and settled amongst them. Again, if you want the accurate description of how everything went down, please just read the book for yourself, or at least just read a few pages of the first chapter, and if you like it, continue on. Anyway, so basically, I'll just call him Monsieur Violet. He was told a story by one of the elders of the Shoshone, okay, of a time where, like it said, fire was rolling down from the hills, the moon turned blood red, okay, and they were just like dying rapidly. What is interesting about that is it actually aligns with the Hopi story of the first world being destroyed by fire, okay. The Hopi say that there was 3 worlds: the first world destroyed by fire, the second world destroyed by ice, and the third world destroyed by water, okay. And that actually aligns with historical accounts of the Younger Dryas catastrophe, right, or the Younger Dryas comet impact, which we know happened some 12,800 years ago, right? And then after that period, because of all of the chemicals and clouds, black clouds, and all of these different things, particles in the atmosphere, it caused the temperature of the globe of the global temperatures to plummet. So it got really cold, okay, and then that's the second world being destroyed by ice, okay. In the third world, it was destroyed by water, because then after that, the temperatures was at the end of the ice ages, the global temperature picked up, and all of the all of the polar caps and everything started to melt, right? And as you know, things were like frozen a lot more, okay? So and then it melted, and so all that water created massive floods. It caused sea levels to rise, which is why Sunderland sank. And it's also why Atlantis sunk, which Plato gives an accurate description of in his Timaeus and Critias. So anyway, after, again, the fire came rolling down from the mountains, Frederick Monsieur quotes from the Shoshone elder, and a strange and numerous people landed on the shores of the sea. Okay, the Shoshone, their territory is based on the west coast of America, from like Oregon, south of California, all the way to like Colorado, I believe, or a little bit further than that. So that would have been on the West Coast, right, or the Pacific Ocean, right? These people would have came from the Pacific Ocean, which again, the advanced civilization in Southeast Asia would have had to cross the Pacific Ocean. So you see where I'm going with that. And strange and numerous people landed on the shores of the sea. They were rich and strong. They made the Shoshone their slaves and built large cities. They were where they passed all their time, right? So you see, and basically, when these people started to weaken, whether it be by lack of resources, maybe their numbers were dwindling, exposed to different kinds of sicknesses, that because when you go into a different environment, you can easily get sick from the change of environment, or it could have been climate, catastrophe, or whatever the case may be, that made their numbers dwindle. The Shoshone took advantage of that. They soon became strong and great warriors. They attacked the strangers, destroyed their cities, and drove them like buffalo far to the south. Okay, so these people would have been nomadic then, and from that point, they would have easily made their way from, if they were like south of California, whatever the case may be, they would easily made their way into like Mexico, Mesoamerica, right, where we see these exquisite pyramids and things of that sort. So you see how that it can easily create a cohesive timeline if taken serious and looked into thoroughly. Okay, but again, these are all theories. It's not really fact. Okay, it's just personally what I believe. And you have the right to make up your mind for your own. You don't need me or any other adult to tell you what to believe. Okay, we all need to figure these things out on our own. We all are capable of critical thinking. This is all dealing with our history and past, so we have the right to form our own understandings of it. Okay. Now we will talk about Viracocha to add some further elements to that. The Inca people of Peru worship a supreme deity named Viracocha or Viracocha. This deity formed the heavens and the earth. His attempt in creating mankind, he created brainless giants, so he washed them away with a flood. Okay, this is a common mythological tale found all around the world. Okay, you'll find this in West Africa, this tale of creating the first human beings and them not coming out properly. You'll find it in Mesopotamia, right, in Iraq and the East. Find it all around the world, even in the Bible, right? The first humans that was created, they mixed with the Watchers, became evil, giants, and everything, washed away for flood. After his attempt, after the first attempt, he was successful in creating humans and teaching them the art of civilization. Then Viracocha was said to have disappeared into the Pacific Ocean. Okay, so if he went into this Pacific Ocean, I'm kind of assuming that he came from that way too. Okay, or maybe he went back to his home. So maybe the civilization may have not stayed there. Maybe they could have went back at some point. Who knows? We don't know. But I found it interesting that this supreme deity taught, according to the Inca people, taught them the art of civilization and then disappeared back into the Pacific Ocean, right? Or disappeared into the Pacific Ocean. And the receipt for that is Britannica. That's where I'm getting my source from, okay? It said, according to this tradition, after forming the rest of the heavens and the earth, Viracocha wandered through the world, teaching men the arts of civilization. At Monte, Ecuador, he walked westward across the Pacific, promising to return one day. Right? So you see that. Interesting. All interesting stuff. All right. Asiatic influences in South America. Okay, so now we have to see the similarities between East Asian culture and Mesoamerican culture. Okay. If we observe Mesoamerican and South American culture, we find clear influences from East Asian cultures. The Olmecs are known for the elongation of their heads, right, as well as their intriguing yogic poses. Now, I'm not saying yoga started in East Asia. Okay, all I'm saying is because yoga, of course, is known to have started around the Hindus. Okay, but there's the thing: their culture. There is clear evidence that their culture comes from a much older culture as well. Okay, and we find this culture that I'm speaking of. We find it all around the world. Okay, we'll find certain symbols, certain styles of building and architecture in these things, and we find it all around the world. And the dates just keep getting older and older. So I don't think that yoga started with them. Okay, but we know that yoga in general comes from the Asian continent. So I can assume that that this advanced civilization in Southeast Asia or East Asia probably were the cultivators of this yoga practice. Okay? The Olmecs are also known for their masks carved out of jade, which is found as well in East Asia, China, and nowhere else, right? So we find that I have to go back on that, not nowhere else, because it's found in China, jade carving, and amongst the Maori people of New Zealand and Mesoamericans. And that's the only places that you will find that. Okay? Because jade is actually a very, very hard mineral to carve. Okay? Very hard to carve. We don't find it carved nowhere else. We find that it's traded in other places, but we don't find that no other populations carved it. And I find it very suspicious, right, that they were both carving masks. The Chinese people, they were both carving masks out of it. The Mayans are also known for their step style pyramids, right, which we've seen that the oldest step style pyramid myth came from Indonesia and Gunung Padang. And the oldest step, yep, see? Not to mention both Chinese and Mesoamericans venerate dragons or flying serpents. Okay, so we know that dragons is common amongst the Chinese, and in Mesoamerica, the Olmecs who brought culture to Mesoamerica, right? And it goes to Olmecs. They taught the Maya how to build these like megalithic structures and whatnot, and then from the Maya go Aztecs and Inca people and all that stuff. Then all of that influence kind of spread it out around the surrounding areas. So let me show you guys first. Show you guys first the elongation of the Olmec heads. Olmec figurines. So if we look at the figurines that was found at La Venta, we can see that they elongated their heads, okay? See that right here. And then the next thing I'm showing you guys is their yoga poses, okay? So Olmec contortion. They were doing extreme yoga. Extreme yoga, okay? As you can see. It's an Olmec figure right here. And you'll find that they were doing all different kinds of yogic poses, okay? And they're sitting in yogic positions and everything. So they call them contortionists. So they knew how to like take their body to extreme measures, extreme flexibility and all these kinds of things. And now if we look at from the Shang Dynasty artifacts, we will find again they were carving jade masks. Okay? Jade masks. Or actually it's not a jade mask. I apologize. It's a bronze mask. I don't know if the jade mask come from the Shang Dynasty. Let's see. It might not actually come from their it might not come from the jade mask, the Shang Dynasty. So I messed up on that one. This is why we need to fact check things again, and I always try to be transparent with you guys, so you guys know I'm not trying to sell you guys anything. Okay, it's okay. We all make mistakes, but one thing I will show you guys is jade dragon, since we were talking about dragons and flying serpents, right? dragon. So we find this jade dragon from the Hongshan dynasty, or Hongshan people, right? But this was found more in the upper, like borderline Mongolia. Okay, so this was found in the surrounding area, not necessarily East Asia around the Southeast Asians, but you have to look at the surrounding areas, okay? Because when we find ancient things, again, normally things spread, all right? They spread, so you can't look at one area and hyper focus on the area, but you have to look at timelines and look at the surrounding areas and see if you can find some connections, okay? And just remember how that this jade dragon looks, and then I'm gonna show you guys Olmec serpent. And then you will find that there's an Olmec stela with a very similar serpent here. It calls the flying serpent. And the Mayans called it Kukulkan. I believe the Aztecs called it Quetzalcoatl. Okay? So you see that right here. Right? But the Chinese, they love jade. They always carve jade artifacts. And you'll find a lot of jade, ancient jade artifacts amongst them. And the Olmecs, for some reason, they love jade a lot too. Okay, and they actually carved some masks out of it. All right. So there goes that to show those connections. Okay, it's very interesting connections, and then I'll show you guys the Mayan step pyramid. Forgot where this site was. I think it's called like Lamani, something like that. No, I'm not pronouncing that right. Let's see. Lamanai. Yep. Lamanai. Right. So we see like a kind of Olmec mask here at the site, so you can tell that the Mayans definitely were influenced by the Olmecs. Okay, you can see the step style pyramid. Okay. So again, I believe that may have been brought from Indonesia, from Southeast Asia, to Mesoamerica. Okay, you see there's much influence, much Asian influence amongst them. Okay. And I know to some of you that makes a lot of sense, because you know that even the early people of North America, they're Asian, so it would kind of make sense to some of you, but some kind of like, especially the so-called indigenous people, you know, they call themselves indigenous. I don't know what the facts are, but they will always like argue on TikTok with me and say, oh, you know, they're very distinct from other populations. They didn't receive no influence from other populations. And to me, that's just a bunch of crap. You know, it's very prideful. But anyway, moving on to the last slide. Early Egypt in America. This is where we connect the Asiatic BlackMan and the West African. Clear traces of Egyptian culture can be found throughout the Americas, from indigenous mythology, artifacts, oral accounts, and stone monuments. The Egyptian civilization is only about 6,000 years old, possibly older if we take into account the Sphinx. Civilization in America predates this, as we can obviously see, right? From Southeast Asia to America, it seems like their civilization is very hoary. It goes back to the end of the last ice age, and then, you know, after the younger dry catastrophe, we find that these people came from Southeast Asia to America and started building things there. Okay, according to Monsieur Violet, Viracocha, and those sources. Okay, it's mythological and oral account stories. Okay, so people don't take that as fact. I believe it may have some truth in there. Therefore, it is appropriate to say that the ancestors of the Egyptians later migrated to North Africa. In this case, the ancient Egyptians were related to West and East Africans, okay? Because we find amongst the ancient Egyptians that they carried the Y-DNA E1B1A. Okay, and we also find that a lot of West African tribes that their mythology kind of connects a lot with the Egyptian mythology, some of their cultures and whatnot, and also a lot of West African tribes actually were once in East Africa. Okay, believe it or not. But that's a whole nother story for another time, whole nother presentation for another time. Okay, trust me, I'm going to be back on here very soon with a presentation on. This time it's going to be more directly dealing with the Egyptians and their cultural influence coming from America. Okay, and we'll talk a lot about that. I'll break it down. I'll bring all of my evidence to the table, and you guys will see how this all comes together. But I thought I would start with where the oldest evidence that I have found comes from. Okay, the Asiatic BlackMan. So, without further ado, thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry for all of like the mishaps and everything. I just woke up and I said I would like to get into it. I haven't even really fully woke myself up yet. Again, if you are looking for dream services, you want a dream interpretation on a reoccurring dream that you may be having, tarot reading, okay, or you want to dispel negative energy in a dream, or you want to tap into the Akashic records, I advise you to head over to my site. Again, because me and my partner, we are very dedicated to the work that we do. Okay, we're not gonna cheat you. We're not gonna give you no half you know what kind of service. Okay, but we're gonna bring everything to the table to help you to be your best version. Okay, so I'll leave the link to our website in the description. All right, love you guys. Take care. I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.